I think right now there's something like 74 of the 99 seats are held by Republicans. So just to get it out of a supermajority for Republicans, you'd have to flip, my math is bad, 9 seats. So in addition to obviously wanting to flip the seat that you are running for, to have the greatest impact, it's going to mean a lot of seats flipping. Are you talking to other House candidates around the state? What are you seeing as both the sort of energy in your district and the districts around the state?
So the energy in my district, in the August elections, our Democrat vote was up over 2014 by over 150%. I mean, it was amazing, the people that are coming out to actually participate in the process. I think that that's happening in a lot of areas across the state. I think that we have a really great opportunity to flip those 9 seats in order to get us out of the super minority. And I also I primarily talk to people that are not necessarily strong Democrats. So I talk to anybody that votes regularly. If they're registered to vote, I'm knocking on their door or I'm calling them. And I spend a lot of time talking to people that are just ready for us to come back together as a community. I live in a neighborhood where I can go knock on my neighbor's door and ask for a cup of sugar. And they'll say yes. We know each other. And the political climate has done a bit of dividing, in that respect, but not to the point that if you go and knock on somebody's door and you say, let's have a conversation and let's talk civilly about the issues that really matter to us as residents of Rutherford County, it seems to really open a door to conversation that needs to happen and isn't happening in our legislature. And that's the problem.
So what are some of those issues that are really important to you, but important to the people that you're talking to as you're going around and having those conversations?
Sure. So my number one concern is access to affordable health care and expanding Medicaid in the state of Tennessee. That we have far too many people that are living on the edge or don't have access. And we actually had our Republican governor put forth a bill to ensure Tennessee by expanding Medicaid, and our legislature would not pass it. And the vast majority of the people that I have talked to across the state are for the expansion because we're just leaving money on the table. It's putting politics above people, and that, quite frankly, is just reprehensible. So there's that. In Rutherford County in particular, with the growth that we've got, we're adding 1,000 students a year to our public school system. And we need to focus very clearly and very directly on ensuring that our public schools are properly funded and completely funded, that they have the resources that are available. In Rutherford County, we have some of the best school districts in the state of Tennessee, and we need to keep it that way, and we need to improve them. So ensuring that our teachers are paid well so that they're not leaving our community, and that our students are not being over-tested and wasting their time on tests that don't work. For the past 4 years, our standardized testing program has not worked for either the teachers, nor the school districts, nor the students. And it's been a travesty. And as I'm out and talking to people about that, in particular, when I'm talking to educators about that and talking to folks that are special, that are teachers in the special needs programs in Rutherford County, they're spending 2 to 3 months either testing or preparing for tests. That's nothing but stressful and has no advantage for either the teachers, the students, or the system. And then, of course, Rutherford County is growing like crazy, so our infrastructure is not keeping up with the amount of growth that we have. We have an awful lot of state highways that are 2-lane highways with absolutely zero shoulder. So I have a 16-year-old son that's recently gotten his driver's license, and we are very clear on you cannot drive here because if you get a flat tire, there is no place for you to go. Problems like that need to be solved. We need to be looking at them and thinking about them. And our interstate, a lot of our residents commute to Nashville to work, and they have to travel I-24. And that could be a commute that, is less than 30 miles, but could take up to 2.5 hours during rush hour.
Are you hearing at all about things like high-speed internet? And, we're hearing, as people are talking about infrastructure around the country, we're hearing about some of these issues that, you think infrastructure, you think things like roads or power lines or stuff, but that it goes much deeper than that, the kinds of things that really need to be set up. Are those things that you're hearing about in your district as well?
Yeah, in a very large way. We have, in our rural communities, there's still houses that have actually no access to internet in their homes. So those children can't do their homework. And the parents, if they want to start an online business, that's not accessible to them. We are working on it. We've got a great county commissioner that is working through the Rockville area and really trying to get broadband into those rural areas. But it's going to be a long, hard process. But it is a big problem for many of our residents. And even in downtown Murfreesboro, if you're not on a Wi-Fi connection from one of the businesses, the internet is very, very slow. So if I'm trying to post something on Facebook or what have you, frequently I have to wait until I get outside of our downtown area in order to make that happen.
So one issue that we've been talking a lot about with a lot of candidates from the Midwest and the South is the opioid addiction crisis. Mm-hmm. Kelly and I are both originally from Ohio, where that crisis is really in full swing. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how Tennessee has been affected and sort of the things you would like to do, if elected, to sort of help stem that tide.
Yeah, absolutely. So the opioid addiction, the opioid crisis has hit us very hard in Tennessee. And unfortunately, what's happened in the state of Tennessee is that it has turned into an either or. So we've got very strict regulations now on who can get medication and how it's administered and how it's regulated, which is great for those, great to help stem the actual addiction process of it. But the flip side is that we also have residents that really depend on that medication and use it appropriately and are not addicted, that are having very difficult times accessing it. And I strongly believe that Medicaid expansion in the state will help alleviate that. It will help provide treatment programs for those that are addicted. It will help provide counseling in rural areas where there are big problems. And then on the flip side, we also need to start introducing other medications, such as medical cannabis, in order to give people an alternative. I've talked to many of the people in my area that have said, I would absolutely utilize medical cannabis if it were available to me and if it were legal, but they will not use it if it's not legal. But at the same time, they're having difficulty getting the medication that they need in order to function through their day.
I'm really glad you brought up medical cannabis because I feel like that is one of the few truly bipartisan issues right now at the forefront of American political life. I see Republicans and Democrats coming together over that issue. So glad you brought it up.
We actually had a bill come into our legislature, and it was a very much bipartisan bill. Mm-hmm. And it got squashed, but before it got squashed, it also got pretty much gutted so that any of the financial and revenue benefits that would have been coming into our state because we had legalized medical cannabis, then it was actually those benefits were going to other states because they weren't going to allow distribution or growth here in the state of Tennessee. Yeah. So I agree. It is 100% a bipartisan issue, and there's a lot of bipartisan support for it. And again, we need to flip those 9 seats so that we can make that happen.
Is there anything else that you would like to make sure that we talk about?
We're working really hard to find those common threads, and we're having a lot of really phenomenal conversations.
I think one of the sort of under-advertised aspects of the blue wave is how many Democratic candidates are now talking about issues that I think most people can agree on. But I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and he was saying, "Oh, Democrats, he's a Republican. They need to stop talking about Trump impeachment." And I said, "Well, they're not talking about Trump impeachment. I interview Democrats every week, and they talk about the same things." All the candidates are talking about education, are talking about healthcare, and are talking about infrastructure, just like you are. Like, those are the issues that people really care about. Those, what were we calling them? The kitchen table issues.
Kitchen table issues. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's
those
exactly
are,
right.
And that's what I'm hearing from Democrats across the country, and it's fascinating because it's everywhere. It's candidates in California, it's candidates in Tennessee, it's candidates in Alabama, it's everywhere.
Well, those are the things that will bring higher paying jobs to Rutherford County. I mean, that's just bottom line. If we can focus in government on those kitchen table issues, the ability for people to get to work, the ability for people to have preventative health care and to take care of themselves when they're sick or injured without losing their house and home and livelihood. And if we can educate our children, then we provide an environment in which industry wants to come here. And it's such a beautiful space. So I can't imagine why industry wouldn't want to come here if we provide them the resources that are necessary for them to be here. It just makes sense.
So if our listeners would like to help out your campaign, how can they do that?
You can find me at jennifervannoy.com. There is a link to my Act Blue page there. I am also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at Jen Vannoy TN. Pretty easy to find all over the place.
Excellent. We'll put those links up on our website as well.
And we can use all the help we can get. We've got a lot of great races happening in Tennessee, and it's a different environment than it's been for a long time. But I think that sometimes the importance of state level politics gets overshadowed by what happens on the federal level. Mm-hmm. And, these are the things that are going to affect people in their day-to-day lives on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for talking to us, and thank you for running. I'm so thrilled to see so many good Democrats running in Tennessee this year.
I am too. And it has been a pleasure. This has been so much fun. Thank you.
Tonight, joining us is Dennis Potvin. He is a Democratic candidate for the State House of Representatives in Tennessee from District 68. Welcome, Dennis.
Well, thank you, Kelly and Sophie. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you with us. Could you just sort of introduce yourself to our listeners? Sort of who are you and how did you come to be running for the State House?
Well, this is actually my first political campaign since 1989. I ran for treasurer of my senior class back in high school, and I won. I'm happy to say I got 60% of the vote. I ran unopposed, and I got 60% of the vote. So that was my last election. Fast forward many years later, I was voting in the 2016 election, and obviously there was a lot happening during that time, and I expected the outcome. But when I went to vote for State House of Representatives, I noticed that my opponent, Curtis Johnson, was running unopposed again. And this was the fourth time in 5 elections that he had run without an opponent. And it hadn't offended me before, but it did this time. And I said to my wife, how in this city, with students and soldiers and small business owners and farmers and factory workers, how can we not have a Democrat run for this position? It just made no sense. And so after talking it over with my family and some of my close friends, I decided to throw my hat in the ring. So this is my first political campaign, like I said, for about 29 years ago. And hopefully the outcome will be the same. Hopefully we'll win.
That's great. And you're one of the first Democrats to run. I think you're one of the first Democrats to run since 2010, right?
Yeah, I am the first Democrat to run since 2010. and only the second one since 2006.